Some experiments were meant to change science, but some crossed the line of humanity. Real people, real pain, real consequences. These are the experiments that went too far. Fact 1. The Stanford Prison Experiment. In 1971, psychologist Philip Zimbardo turned a university basement into a fake prison. Volunteers were randomly assigned as guards or prisoners. What started as a simple study quickly spiraled out of control. Guards began abusing prisoners psychologically, using humiliation, sleep deprivation, and intimidation. Prisoners showed signs of emotional breakdown within days. The experiment was meant to last 2 weeks, but was stopped after only 6 days because it became too dangerous. The shocking part was not the setup, it was how quickly ordinary people adopted cruel behavior when given power. The study revealed a dark truth about human nature. Under certain conditions, almost anyone can become abusive. Today, the Stanford Prison Experiment remains one of the most disturbing psychological experiments ever conducted.
Fact number 2. The Milgram Obedience Experiment. In the 1960s, psychologist Stanley Milgram wanted to know how far people would go when obeying authority. Participants were told to give electric shocks to another person whenever they answered questions wrong. The shocks were fake, but the participants didn't know. As the voltage increased, the victim screamed in pain, begged to stop, and eventually went silent. Shockingly, about 65% of participants continued to the highest level simply because a scientist told them to. Many were sweating, shaking, and visibly distressed, yet still obeyed. The experiment revealed how easily ordinary people can commit harmful acts under authority pressure. Milgram's study became one of the most controversial experiments in psychology and raised serious ethical questions about manipulation and emotional harm. Fact 3. The Monster Study. In 1939, researchers conducted a cruel experiment on orphan children to study stuttering. Some children were constantly criticized and told their speech was terrible, even if they spoke normally. Others were praised. Over time, the criticized children became anxious, withdrawn, and developed real speech problems, caused purely by psychological pressure. The experiment was kept hidden for years because of its unethical nature. Many participants carried emotional trauma into adulthood. The Monster Study is remembered not for science, but for how far researchers went at the expense of vulnerable children. Fact 4. The MK Ultra Program. During the Cold War, the CIA secretly ran mind control experiments under the name MK Ultra. Subjects were often unaware they were being tested. Some were given LSD and other drugs without consent, leading to paranoia, hallucinations, and long-term psychological damage. In some cases, people were observed for weeks while under the influence. The goal was to explore brainwashing and behavior control. Many records were later destroyed, leaving the full truth unknown. When details surfaced in the 1970s, the public was shocked by how far intelligence agencies had gone. MK Ultra remains one of the most disturbing secret experiments in modern history. Fact 5. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study.
In 1932, a long-term medical study began in Tuskegee, Alabama, involving hundreds of poor African-American men, many of whom had syphilis. The participants were told they were receiving free health care, meals, and medical attention. In reality, doctors were secretly observing how the disease progressed without treatment. Even after penicillin was discovered in the 1940s as an effective cure, researchers deliberately withheld it. The men continued to suffer. Their health declined. Some lost their lives, and in some cases, the infection spread to family members. Many trusted the doctors completely, never knowing they were being used as test subjects. The study continued for 40 years until a whistleblower exposed the truth in 1972. Public outrage followed, forcing the government to end the experiment and introduce strict ethical rules in medicine. The Tuskegee study became a symbol of betrayal in science, showing how far researchers went when human rights were ignored in the name of observation and data.
Fact 6. The Soviet Sleep Experiment. Controversial story. One of the most debated experiments is the so-called Soviet Sleep Experiment. According to the story, several subjects were kept awake for many days using a special stimulant gas. At first, nothing unusual happened, but as days passed, the subjects reportedly began whispering to microphones, showing paranoia and extreme fear. They avoided light, tore books apart, and stopped speaking normally. Eventually, the story claims they became mentally unstable and violently resisted attempts to remove them from the chamber, even refusing sleep when promised freedom. However, historians have found no solid evidence that this experiment truly occurred. Many believe it is an internet legend rather than documented science. Still, the story spread widely because it touches a real fear: how long-term sleep deprivation and isolation can seriously damage the human mind. Real studies confirm that lack of sleep can cause hallucinations, emotional collapse, and cognitive breakdown. Whether myth or exaggeration, the tale remains one of the most chilling what-if scenarios in the history of extreme psychological experiments.
Fact 7. The Little Albert Experiment. In 1920, psychologist John B. Watson conducted a famous experiment to study how fear can be created. A baby, known as Little Albert, was shown a white rat, something he initially found harmless and even interesting. Then, each time the child reached for the rat, researchers struck a metal bar behind him, producing a loud, frightening noise. After repeated pairings, Albert began crying at the mere sight of the rat. Soon, the fear spread to anything white and furry: rabbits, dogs, even a Santa Claus mask. The experiment demonstrated how fear responses can be conditioned artificially, but it also raised serious ethical concerns. Albert was never deconditioned, meaning the fear may have remained long after the study ended. Modern psychology views this experiment as a warning about manipulating human emotions, especially in vulnerable individuals. It showed how easily fear can be implanted and how long psychological effects can last. Fact 8. The Aversion Project. During the apartheid era in South Africa, a secret military program attempted to change the sexuality of soldiers suspected of being homosexual. Known as the Aversion Project, it involved forced psychiatric treatments, electric shock therapy, and powerful drugs. Some victims were subjected to extreme psychological pressure, while reports suggest others underwent non-consensual medical procedures. Instead of science, the program became a tool of control and fear. Many participants suffered lifelong trauma, depression, and identity damage. For years, the project remained hidden until former doctors and survivors revealed what had happened. Today, the Aversion Project is widely condemned as unethical and abusive. It stands as a disturbing example of how experimentation can be misused when driven by ideology rather than medical necessity. The program left lasting scars on those involved and became a reminder of the importance of human rights in scientific practice.
Fact 9. The Blue Eyes, Brown Eyes Experiment. In 1968, teacher Jane Elliott conducted a classroom experiment to demonstrate how discrimination works. She divided her students into two groups based solely on eye color. One day, blue-eyed children were told they were superior, smarter, better, more trustworthy. The brown-eyed group was treated as inferior. Within hours, behavior changed dramatically. The superior group became more confident and sometimes arrogant, while the other group grew anxious, withdrawn, and insecure. Academic performance even dropped under pressure. The next day, the roles were reversed and the same psychological effects appeared again. The experiment showed how quickly social labels and perceived hierarchy can shape human behavior and self-worth. Though intended as a lesson against racism, it revealed how powerful and damaging discrimination can be, even when based on something as trivial as eye color.
Fact 10. Unit 731. During World War II, Japan's secret military research unit, known as Unit 731, conducted some of the most brutal human experiments in history. Prisoners were exposed to extreme cold, infectious diseases, and surgical procedures without anesthesia. The goal was to study biological weapons and human survival under extreme conditions. Many victims died, while others suffered unimaginable pain. Evidence later revealed that thousands may have been used in these experiments. After the war, much information was hidden, and some researchers avoided punishment in exchange for their data. Unit 731 became one of the darkest examples of science without ethics, where human life was treated as disposable. The revelations shocked the world and helped shape modern international rules on medical research and human rights. It remains a haunting reminder of how dangerous science can become when morality is ignored.